and some ways to connect with folks. Please welcome JohnR.
Well, Tim started off with our introductions this morning, kind of as a preview introduction of what I was going to talk about. What do you talk about with people? How do you connect with people? Because it can be really, really uncomfortable and awkward. I'm an introvert, and trying to talk to extroverts always seemed like, oh, this is way too much. And then you have other introverts where you both are like, whoa, this is too much. And so taking that one step forward to actually talk to somebody, I don't know why it's so terrifying. I mean, there's that fear of rejection, there's that fear of social faux pas, that bit of angst and anxiety when it comes to maybe you're going to be doing something wrong, or you're going to be seen or judged or viewed in a different way. But taking that step, it's so hard. So I tried to figure this out in high school, and I really struggled because there just didn't seem to be a group of people I fit with. I bounced around a little bit to a whole bunch of different groups. And then I realized that I just needed to kind of form my own. And with it, it became this super inclusive group. So you didn't have to be a jock, a thug, a cowboy, super drama kid. You didn't have to be any of these things. You could be all of them, and you were welcome. That was a big change that I didn't see anywhere else in the high school. And we played hacky sack. Anybody was welcome to play hacky sack, and you didn't need to say anything. You could just kind of show up and kick the hacky sack, which is, if you don't know what that is, little bag of sand or beans or something. So it was this physical interaction with people that created some camaraderie, and then side conversations could happen from there, and a lot of friendships got started. I was tired of I stuttered, and I had a really hard time talking to women because I was so embarrassed and shy, and yet didn't know what to say. So going into college, I put on a mask, and not the healthiest way to do it, but it was what worked at the time. Put on a mask and went, I'm not going to be that. I'm going to talk to every single person I want to talk to. And I'm just going to talk to them, and I'm going to get their numbers, and I'm going to invite them out to things, because I figured if there's a social interaction that can happen and something other than just a regular conversation, then it'd be easier. And it sort of worked. Within the first week of college, I think I had 250 numbers, and I invited, the first night of college, I threw a party at somebody else's dorm. I put this stuff together, and I became the social chair of the rugby team. This interaction was kind of wild. I could get 350 people to show up at a random house, a stranger's house, within about 20 minutes of notice. And we threw parties through almost all of college, probably on average 1 to 2 a week, for 5 years. And I led most of those. At those parties, I realized it was kind of a social experiment for me to see how people interacted. So you had the group of people that came to the party together. So that was their friend group, and they were very comfortable with each other, and they could have their own little side discussions. And that happened with some groups. But then you have the people that would come alone. And those, I was trying to make sure that they were welcome, and that they knew that they could talk to other people, and to make sure that they didn't drive home after indulging too much. And so connecting people together within that group, so we formed a bigger group with it, and finding ways to make sure that people knew that they were encouraged to be there, and that they were safe. But getting people to talk to each other, how do you do that? Some places they'd have music so loud that you couldn't hear each other, so people are screaming at each other. And I think that causes elevated levels of stress, and it just was uncomfortable for me. So I always tried to have the music low enough where people could hear the music if they were trying to listen to it, but they could talk to each other in a normal voice, normal auditory range, without having to yell. So that was a starting point. And then I just thought of one day, how can you really get to know someone beyond the, oh, hey, weather sucks. Oh, school's boring. School's awesome, whatever. Instead, ask them what they're passionate about. Now, how many people have been asked what they're passionate about by somebody? Very rarely. I'm seeing head nods from the two people I can see. If you ask somebody that question, almost every time you're going to have an amazing answer. People are going to be like, oh, I'm all about mushrooms. I love going mushroom hunting. And there's all of these cool things and the recipes you can create from it and the places you could explore. And this is how the fungus grow. And they go through this whole life cycle and they will go into this in-depth analysis of this one specific microcosm of the universe. And it's awesome. These are where your stories that Angela collects, that's where they come from. It's the passion people have. And it can be for anything. It can be for anything. And it's everything. And it's wonderful. My friend Corin, she goes and researches old graveyards. Kind of a weird habit. She'll go and find these little ghost town graveyards. She'll do etchings of the gravestones if she can get through them, or just take pictures and figure out what they are. And then she'll do research on who that person was and how they got out here. And a lot of times it's going through the Oregon Trail and that type of stuff. Weird, odd hobby that she is so passionate about. She's written over 1,000 pages of a manuscript for. Wonderful. Those types of passion projects, those types of interactions, I think are a way to connect with people on a deeper level. So it becomes real talk rather than the small talk. You get to know what makes these people tick, and you get to share some knowledge with them or just learn from their knowledge and expand your own. In conclusion, if you are struggling to talk to people, if you can give yourself that little challenge of just saying something initially, establish a slight little communication, and then as that initial wave of, hi, I am so-and-so, hi, I am so-and-so, peters out, maybe one level of small talk, then ask what they're passionate about. And either they'll give you a 3-word summary and then it's done, and then you can move on, or they will give you this awesome explanation of what they're passionate about. And immediately, if you pay attention and you care, you're going to have somebody that you can touch back with for the rest of your life, potentially. And it doesn't need to be the rest of your life, but it can be for the rest of the party, the rest of the event. But you will learn so much more by asking that question, in my opinion, than you will by knowing somebody for 10 years without ever knowing what really gets them excited. So my challenge to you is, next time you're in a social situation where you're too awkward, you're feeling too awkward to go and take that next step, just find somebody with a cool tattoo, find somebody with something that it interests you, and ask them, what are they passionate about? And share your results. No, Patrol.
Yeah.
All right.